Certainly from many conversations I've had with Steph, and I'm pretty close to Steph. We talk a lot. We have a great relationship. I think he's very comfortable with the path of the franchise and how hard we do try to put as good a product on the court as we can.
So then Lacob addresses the narrative, which is a narrative on Twitter, which is how you know Lacob's on Twitter, because he told us he was on Twitter. He watches, but he doesn't tweet. Here's Lacob on the narrative not wasting the end of Steph Curry's career.
It matters to me every bit as much as it matters to our fans for Steph or for Steph. I don't ever want to be not trying or be bad or be laissez-faire about trying to win. I think people, I hope, understand from the time we as a group have bought this team, 14 years going on 15 now, it's hard to believe.
Yep.
We've tried to be competitive, as much as we can.
So the narrative that they're not trying to be competitive, I think, is a lazy one. I think you hear the guy, and look, he may not make the best decisions. He may not make all the right decisions. But one thing I can say about Joe Lacob, and no, I'm not, people are going to say, oh, here comes Homer Bonte, but honestly, the guy wants to win. The guy's obsessed with winning. Now, you don't always get it right, but the guy is obsessed with winning. And I don't think he wants to waste, quote-unquote, waste Steph Curry's career. I think they're trying to get better. They're trying to compete, and he wants that championship. They all want that fifth ring together.
What can be gained from him talking right now, from his perspective?
I don't know what could be gained. Honestly, because the fan base will intensify. It's like, this is BS. Yeah. So, people already have their minds made up.
Yes.
Fans could be stubborn.
But plus, I still believe that they're trying to do stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't think it's stagnant. Like, it's not frozen right now as to what they're trying to do. But I'll say this. I do feel like, and addressing the Steph thing, that's going to be a work in progress over the next 6 months, year and a half, however long Steph's still on the team.
Yep.
What I found to be the most interesting, just my personal opinion, was the Klay Thompson aspects of it. And Tim Kawakami asking him very specific questions about the negotiation with Klay Thompson, about Klay Thompson's departure, and just all that. And I just think he's in a really tough spot. You just lost one of your legends, and
he's emotional about it too.
Yeah. And I do believe on some level they tried. And I also believe on some level they realized, like, I think we're all best, which you had said for months, like, we're all best kind of walking away from each other.
No doubt. Draymond mentioned it yesterday. We'll get to Draymond Green.
Wait, he was on a podcast too?
I mean, he hasn't stopped.
How many episodes this summer for Draymond Green?
Well, he's on Club 20 podcast. He's on Melo's podcast. He's on Marshawn Lynch's new podcast.
Okay.
Paul George's
There's
podcast.
so many of them.
His own podcast.
Podcast-itis, man.
So many of them.
There's no cure for podcast-itis.
Danny Green.
Danny Green has a podcast?
Who is subscribing? Time out. Who is subscribing to the I played on 88 teams Danny Green podcast?
Multi-time champion Danny Green, please. Starter multiple times as well.
Hey, listen. Podcast-itis has no cure. It
Odyssey
doesn't.
Podcast.
It has no cure for it.
I gotta look this up. What is the name of his podcast?
Danny Green.
It's the Danny Green podcast.
Why you look up that podcast?
We gotta get a little more original with these podcast names.
As you come up with that podcast, here's Joe Lacob on whether or not
Inside
the
the Green
Warriors
Room.
Inside the Green. Is it really? Well, that could be a lot of things. That's actually not a bad name. Inside the Green Room. You could be smoking green. You could be chilling in green. You could be. That's a great name. Joe Lacob, Tim Kawakami, on whether or not another trade is coming for the Golden State Warriors.
Are there trades that are being discussed all the time? Absolutely. We could make a significant trade for sure, but we might not. There are three ways to get your team better, right? The draft, which probably is the most reliable one in some respects, although highly risky and takes some time. Free agency. The Lakers have used this over the years, certainly. We've done it occasionally. That's happened now. And the third is trades. Trades is kind of the hardest way to go because there are 29 other teams all trying to do the same thing. They're all trying to get better. And everyone wants to win a trade. I know in business, you hear the term win-win. It's good to make win-win moves in life, in business, trades, business transactions. But you can't make someone do that. So it's one of these things where you have to find the right partner at the right time, and you have to sort of agree that this is going to work for both parties.
Well, if it's going to work for both parties, Kawakami asked Lake about if he's willing to give up several picks of young players to get that superstar.
Reported by various people.
It's a balance.
We were enacting.
We have to
discussions.
balance.
We would do it. We would send all kinds of picks in a particular trade or players if we felt we were getting back something that was really great and that made sense and that was got someone that was the right age and the right cultural fit and and also fit within the construct of the team. It's possible, but I will consider and we will consider anything and have considered all of these options.
So he's considered all these options, considered everything. He's considering everything. And he confirms, I think they were very aggressive trying to get Paul George.
Reported by various people that we were in active discussions for a very big name player. And I think those are accurate and aggressive. It didn't happen. And again, gets back to just what I said a minute ago. You can be as aggressive as all hell, but it sometimes doesn't matter if the other side, for whatever reason, just isn't compelled to do it. Even when you might think it makes sense. I'm trying to be,
Yeah, no, you're not getting in trouble.
I'm trying not to go there with any specifics here. I've said it before. I mean, it's just really hard to do these things. And there are all kinds of reasons that sometimes we don't even understand coming from the other side. When we've been super aggressive and we have not been able to pull it off because the other side had a construct of how they wanted to build it.
But I also believe that the owner himself loves Draymond Green. I really do.
What about trading anybody? He said,
I love how he said that. Like, I'll trade anybody. I'm going to accept one guy, maybe two.
Maybe two.
But isn't that real?
That is real. That is real.
I mean,
so a deal could still be done.
I said that when we were joking around, you, me, Steiny, and Guru. I was like, because you were like, Steph Curry's untradeable. I'm like, okay, Anthony Edwards straight up for Steph Curry. That's presented. You're saying no? Victor Wembanyama straight up for Steph Curry.
I think everybody's doing that.
What?
I think anybody would do that.
You know what I mean? Like, no, I know, but that's the joke. So I think that Lacob's being honest there. Like,
he is being
pretty
honest.
much everybody is available except one guy.
Steph Curry. Let's get into that coming up. Plus, Jamie, shout out 745. Line them up. 888-957-9570 is the number. Shameless shout outs will explain that on the other side. Brought to you by Safeway.
We could make a significant trade, but we might not.